Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending today's Shuttered Venue Operators Grant Reconsideration Information Session for Talent Representatives. Please note that this presentation will be recorded and will be made available in the future if requested. Thank you for your patience, and we'll begin momentarily. Today, we have some amazing presenters from our management and operations team that will be describing our Reconsideration 2.0 process. Matthew Stevens, Jenny Wood, Christian Mendoza, Tara Bartlick, and Steve Steele. We will also have our high-level customer service team answering questions privately, so please send in your Q&A questions to the chat field. Matt, would you please be able to come take over some of our housekeeping items? Thank you so much and enjoy today's webinar.
Great, Lori. Thanks for kicking us off, and good afternoon, everybody. If you're on the East Coast, good morning for the rest of the country. My name is Matt Stevens, and I'm the SVOG Program Director, and I want to welcome you all to Recon 2.0, the Recon 2.0 information session. Thank you for making the time for us this afternoon. We're really happy that you're joining us, as Lori mentioned, and as she also mentioned, we've got a great team to go through the presentation today. Some awesome SVOG operations members who will go through in depth what Recon 2.0 is and what you need to do to respond to this invitation. So let me start by just congratulating you on your SVOG award. Very exciting indeed, and certainly we are moving in the direction of monitoring, auditing, and closeout, but we want to make sure that we give you this opportunity, Reconsideration 2.0, before we move into that monitoring phase. So we shared an invitation email to you, and again, we're very excited about Reconsideration 2.0. This is the phase. It's an opportunity for grant recipients who made mistakes on their initial application that could have decreased their award amount to correct those mistakes and potentially receive a larger award. So today's session, we will give you an overview and give you the necessary information to go through Reconsideration 2.0. And as Lori mentioned, a few housekeeping items, certainly similar to the prior live events that you may have been a part of. This is a listen-only mode. It's being recorded, but it is interactive. We intend to cover a lot of information, so the recording will allow you to go back and review parts as needed. If at any time you lose audio or experience technical difficulties, it can be beneficial to log out and then log back into Teams to see if the presentation will work, but it will be recorded and we will distribute that. We encourage you to use the Q&A feature to ask your questions, so type them into Q&A. We have staff monitoring the chat, and we will provide answers and address common trends and questions submitted. If you have specific questions that you would like answered, please do include your SVOG application number, entity name, and contact email so that we can research the question and get back to you offline. So again, purpose of this meeting is to provide an overview of Reconsideration 2.0. We're going to keep the questions limited to that scope. If you have some questions that are out of that scope, you can email svogrant@sva.gov, and we'll make sure that that's posted in the Q&A section as well. And I know many of you have questions about the closeout process, and we will be covering that in great depth and some office hours planned for December. The nature of this meeting, though, is Reconsideration 2.0. If you can go to the next slide. So yes, let me just go over a few more pieces of information. This is what we're tackling today with the agenda. We've done our intro, done our housekeeping. We're going to go straight into what is Recon 2.0, who can request it, how you can request it, and then of course, the all-important information that you need to provide to us to look at your Reconsideration 2.0 request. So we'll go through that, what the action item means. You're well versed at this point as SVOG grantees on what an action item is in the portal. And then we'll leave some time for questions and answers. We're going to try to get to as many questions that are beneficial to the entire group as we can in this hour session that we have allotted. So again, thank you. Congratulations on your SVOG award. Welcome, talent reps. And I'm going to kick it over to Jenny Wood to continue the presentation. Go ahead, Jenny.
Awesome. Thanks, Matt. Welcome, everyone. Happy Monday. Just to reiterate, let's make sure you are in the right place. So today's presentation is going to be regarding issues related to our talent representatives that have already received an SVOG award, but believe they may be eligible for a higher award amount than what they received. We know there's a lot of processes still going on here at SVOG, and some of you may have questions again about other aspects of the grant process or what to do after you've received your award. Next slide, please. So here again, we have the information about questions regarding monitoring and closeout. If you're here and your primary questions are about monitoring and closeout, you're welcome to stay and listen. However, those questions will be answered in greater detail in the future. In early December, we will be holding office hours that are specific to those issues. Invitations to those office hours will be emailed to all grantees. In the meantime, we also have information available at sba.gov, and our high-level customer service team will be providing a link to that in the Q&A section of this Teams live event. So again, you are welcome to stay and listen to Reconsideration 2.0 if you're here for monitoring and closeout, but please understand questions regarding monitoring and closeout are going to be deferred to these subsequent office hours that we will be having on that topic. Today's conversation is going to be limited to Reconsideration 2.0 and what that means for you guys. Next slide, please. Oh, just kidding. You advanced it already. Thank you, Christian. Again, other issues that are not monitoring and closeout, for example, your initial award, appeal, supplemental award process, decision-making process, any of those questions, we invite you to email svogrant@sba.gov. Please include the 4 items of information that you see here on the slide: your entity name, your application number, the email address of the applying contact, and the phone number of the applying contact. And our high-level customer service team will receive that email and be able to respond to you directly regarding any of those other topics. As far as Q&A submissions for our live Q&A today, we are reserving a little bit of time at the end. Our hope is to have 10 or 15 minutes after we go through our presentation to answer questions related to program guidelines about completing Reconsideration 2.0. If you have questions about other topics, again, we invite you to use the email. If you have questions about your specific application, we will not be able to answer those in the Q&A. So again, even if it's related to 2.0, please use that email address if your question is specific to a detail in your application. If you're signed in as anonymous, please make sure you type the entirety of your question and the information related to it into a single comment, because it's very difficult to link comments from various people logged in as anonymous if they're not entered as that one set of chat. So having said that, let's move forward and talk about what is Reconsideration 2.0. Next slide, please. We are very excited about Reconsideration 2.0, similarly to when we were able to bring everyone our appeals process and Reconsideration 1.0. This is an opportunity for us to address issues that people have experienced over the course of the grant application process. All grantees will have the option to request Reconsideration 2.0. Some grantees may have already participated in Reconsideration. That first round of Reconsideration we are referring to as Reconsideration 1.0. Reconsideration 1.0 addressed a very narrow set of issues limited to a specific group of grantees. And those grantees were the ones who received an award amount that was at least $100 less than the amount requested. Reconsideration 2.0 is available to all grantees. This is an opportunity to correct any potential errors on your initial application, which may have resulted in a lower award amount. So for example, if you had entered your earned revenues as you understood earned revenues to be, and later on you reviewed our FAQs and you reviewed your revenue documentation and discovered that you should have entered a higher number for your earned revenues, this is your opportunity to bring that information to us. There are some other examples of things Recon 2.0 might deal with that we'll go into deeper later on in the presentation. That's just one example. But again, this is available to all of our grantees, and it's an opportunity to correct any potential error that may have resulted in a lower award amount than you believe you are eligible for. If your Reconsideration 2.0 submission results in an update to your original grant amount, your supplemental award will also be updated. So again, if your initial award winds up going up because of your Reconsideration 2.0 submission, your supplemental award will also go up. Next slide, please. What is Reconsideration 2.0? So to go into a little more detail about some of the things we've touched on already, it's an opportunity to correct your issues in your original application related to your revenues, your date business began operation, and other data points used to calculate your SVOG award. An important distinction about Reconsideration 2.0 is that this is a money question. This is not an overall eligibility question. To be eligible for Reconsideration 2.0, you must be a grantee, which means that you have successfully gone through the application process and received an award. Eligibility questions are addressed by the appeals process. If you have a question about your initial award or appeal decision, again, please contact SVOG Grant at sba.gov. The email address there at the bottom of the slide that you will hear us using frequently throughout the presentation. If you think your SVOG award amount should be different than the amount you received, there's two ways that can happen, right? Either you think your amount is too low. If you think it's too low, you're in the right spot. You're going to want to complete the Reconsideration 2.0 action item. Please stay here with us and learn more information on how to successfully do that. If you think your amount received was too high, that is an issue that's going to be addressed during our monitoring and closeout process. Again, we'll have office hours for monitoring and closeout separately held in early December, and additional information to review in the meantime is located at sba.gov and at the link provided in today's Q&A information section. You're welcome to stay and learn about Reconsideration 2.0 if you believe the amount you received was too high. However, information related to what to do in that situation will be provided in today's presentation. It will be provided in future presentations. Next slide, please. How to request Reconsideration 2.0. As we've touched on, all grantees will receive a Reconsideration 2.0 action item because all grantees are eligible to participate in Reconsideration 2.0. You do not need to contact SBA or SVOG to request this invitation. Invitations will go out on a rolling basis and issued once all processing phases are complete for your application. So for example, if you have received your initial award and perhaps you've received a Reconsideration 1.0 award, but you're still waiting to have your supplemental award processed, you won't receive your Reconsideration 2.0 invitation until that supplemental award process has been completed. If you have received all of the stages and completed all of the stages of your SVOG process up through supplemental, then when we begin issuing our invitations on or about November 17, you will receive your invitation on a rolling basis as they come out. Once you have received that invitation, grantees will have 21 days to complete the action item. We know this is a little bit longer and it's a little bit different than other action items that you may have received during the life of this process. That is because we understand that it's the end of the year, it is the holidays, We're going to go over a lot of detailed, comprehensive information we're encouraging you to provide, and we want you to have plenty of time to successfully provide us that information. Reconsideration 2.0 is not first come, first serve. You do not need to rush to immediately send in the information. We have intentionally provided the 21 days to allow you guys time to carefully consider and compile and provide your information so that you can successfully complete Reconsideration 2.0. Next slide, please. In today's presentation, we are going to talk about how you can successfully complete that Reconsideration 2.0 action item. And to do that, we're going to discuss the components of the award calculation. We're going to review documents and information you should gather before beginning to complete your action item. And we're going to demonstrate how to complete that action item in the portal. Next slide, please. The first segment of this information that is going to help you prepare to respond to that Reconsideration 2.0 action item is understanding what we're looking at in the Reconsideration 2.0 action item. The components of the award amount calculation is how we determine your award amount. So again, we're here for Reconsideration 2.0 because we think our award amount was incorrect. So this is how we determine your award amount. We have two calculations that are used. Most of you will fall into the standard calculation. Some of you, for example, are seasonal entities, and our entities with a date business began operation after December 31st, 2018, will fall into our alternate calculation that we use to calculate for you guys that don't have a full 2019 year of revenue for us to incorporate into the calculation. Next slide, please. What data points impact this award calculation? For each of the two different kinds of award calculations, we rely on the same sets of data. And that data is pulled from your earned revenue, your date business began operation, various financial documents that we ask you to provide, such as your income tax returns and profit and loss statements, and information related to your business structure, such as whether you have affiliated entities that have also submitted funding requests, whether perhaps there has been an ownership transfer that would impact the kind of information available to you as the applicant. And now we're going to have Steve Steele join us to go into greater detail on these earned revenue components of the award amount calculation. Welcome, Steve.
Thank you, Jenny. And I also want to welcome everybody and congratulate you on your award. And hopefully we can make sure that you can get the award amount that you deserve based on the criteria. So one of the criteria, as Jenny just said, is that earned revenue amount. So if we can go to the next slide and talk about earned revenue. So earned revenue, the simplest way to describe it is that it's payment for goods or services. So anything that is received based on a provision of goods or of services is considered earned revenue for the purposes of SVOG. That includes the sales of goods such as food, beverage, or merchandise, the sales of services like production fees or advertising, any income that comes in based on a contractual basis, including rent. And this probably won't relate to many talent reps, but if there is a nonprofit entity, the fair market value of goods or services from fundraising events. Basically, what it excludes is two major areas: grants or donations that are given without any expectation of anything in return, so gratuitous donations or contributions, and investment income. But with the exception of that, anything that is received based on provision of goods and services is considered earned revenue for the purposes of SVOG. Now I'm going to ask Tara Bartlick to come in and talk a little bit about the importance of the date that the business began operations.
Great, thank you, Steve. So the next component of the award calculation that we touched on earlier is the date business began operation. As Steve and Jenny overviewed, the award calculation is a percentage of the 2019 earned revenue. And so for the purposes of the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, the date business began operation is when the entity began earning revenue. So you may have incorporated, you may have been in the formation stages of building out your business, but in the original application and for the purposes of the Recon 2.0 process, we're looking for when you were earning revenue, offering services. This should be familiar because you were prompted to enter this in the original application, but when you are going through the Recon 2.0 process, if you opt into the process, just make sure when you're confirming that date previously entered that you are making sure that it reflects the date that you began earning revenue. The reason that we're looking for the date that you began earning revenue is we want to make sure that we are giving you the full amount that you're qualified for. So if you did not have a full year, full 12 months of earning revenue, that we apply the alternate calculation described previously. So if you had the full year, your business began January 1st, we'll use that standard calculation. If the date business began operation was on or after January 2nd, we'll use the alternate calculation. So that will look at your average, the full months on the calendar times 6. If you do have a date business began operations after January 1st, we're just going to ask for some additional information to support when your business began operation. And next, I'm going to throw it back to Steve to discuss the financial documents requested.
Thank you, Tara. So when you are submitting, what is really important to think about is that SVOG is going to look at the earned revenue that you submit, that you say that you earned in 2019 and 2020, and we're going to be looking for documentary evidence that supports the revenues that you entered. So it's very important to think about what financial documents you can provide that will help support what the revenues are that you have entered. The first and foremost document, of course, is going to be federal income tax returns, and we're asking for those for 2019 and 2020 if available. But in many cases, the federal income tax return may not tell the whole story. So, think about other kinds of financial documents that will fill in gaps. For example, if you report on a fiscal year rather than a calendar year, it's important for us to see the full calendar year of 2019 and again 2020 if possible. So that may include providing us with monthly profit and loss statements to cover that entire calendar year or those calendar years. Also, if there is some differentiation between the revenues as they are provided on your tax return and in the earned revenues, perhaps the profit and loss statement will help us understand why there's that difference depending on the type of business model that you have and how you report your revenues. So again, think about how you can best support what documentary evidence you can provide to best support the numbers that you enter as your earned revenues of 2019 and 2020. And now I'm going to throw it back to Jenny to talk about affiliates.
Thanks, Steve. So when we're looking at our unique and complex business structures, one thing that comes into play pretty frequently are parents and subsidiaries or affiliated funding request groups. So some of you may have multiple entities or business entities that you use that are eligible for an SVOG grant. And as we know from our FAQs and initial application process, you have the option of submitting one application as the parent or submitting up to 5 individual applications for subsidiaries or sibling entities. The FAQs that address these particular issues in detail are FAQ 208 and 209. The important takeaways are to ensure that you are carefully deciding whether to do one application or multiple applications, and that when you are providing information about affiliated funding request groups, that you are providing a detailed description of how the revenues are allocated to each of your entities and a detailed description of your business structure so that our SVOG reviewers can understand what revenue belongs to which entity in order to properly allocate and award each of those entities. Other special circumstances that may have occurred for you are ownership transfers. If you've experienced an ownership transfer over the course of this process, we know it's been a long process and a long pandemic and that this has happened for some of you. Please look at FAQ 84 for additional information on that. And if you have questions regarding the implementation of either of those, you're welcome to contact our high-level customer service team. But the big takeaways on either of those issues are provide financial documents that clearly delineate which entity is responsible for what revenue. We encourage diagrams and we encourage monthly profit and losses to identify that information. Also include a brief 1 or 2 sentences or longer if you feel is needed to explain the relationship between the entities and explain the nature, if it's an ownership transfer, the nature of that transaction so that we understand what assets or debts or losses were taken over by the new owner and which ones are remaining with the original owner. Steve, would you like to talk about our explanatory statement?
Sure, thank you. So as you provide all these documents, what's probably most important for SVOG is to understand the relationship among them and why they were provided. And so that's why we're asking you to provide an explanatory statement. It should give in a brief way why you think that the award amount you received was incorrect and why you believe that you should have gotten more. It should explain what documents were provided, let us know what you gave us and why you gave them to us. If there is a discrepancy, as I mentioned earlier, between the provided documents and the earned revenue data that you entered, make sure you explain that. Let us know what the source of that is and why you believe the revenues that you entered are correct. If there is a complex business structure, as Jenny was just discussing, make sure that you give us a good explanation of that structure, including diagrams, as she mentioned. If there are any special circumstances, such as a transfer of ownership, where some of the 2019 revenue may have been from a previous ownership structure, make sure you explain that to us, and any kind of parent subsidiary or any other kind of affiliated relationship. Again, the more information, the more comprehensive you can be to help us understand your finances and your financial situation. That will help us understand why you entered the earned revenue that you did. That's going to give us a leg up in being able to understand what the correct award amount is for your funding request.
Great, thank you, Steve. We also are going to touch on a couple of special issues for talent representatives. If we want to go to the next slide, I know that the contents of this slide has come up in our Q&A already a little bit from several of you. So to touch on the first one, our date business began operations, Tara did some explanation of that data point earlier, but please just remember for SVOG purposes, we are defining date entity began generating earned revenue is the phrase that we're using to guide us in determining what the date business began operations is. I think for our talent representatives, that doesn't impact as many of you as some of our other entities, but it is an important consideration because it helps us identify what quarters we're using to determine your loss, and it can impact which of our calculations, whether it's our standard calculation or our alternative calculation, is being used to determine your award amount. So if you do find yourself in a situation where you think your date business began operations needs to be updated, please review your entity information and your revenue information and make sure that you are including the date business began operations that fits this definition. And we also, as Steve touched on briefly, and we'll go into greater detail now, there has been some modifications to our guidance regarding earned revenues. Steve, can you take them through that one more time in greater detail, please?
Sure, Jenny, thank you. So as Jenny just mentioned, SVOG has updated our internal processing to make sure that we're being consistent across all entity types. And in order to ensure that consistency, what was FAQ number 207, and I'll get in more detail about that. FAQ number 207, in previous versions of the FAQs, you can see it here on the screen. It said that talent representatives should claim the commission income they earn, the retainers that they're paid, but they should not claim payments passed through to artists they represent. That has been updated, and if you look at the most recent FAQs, you will see, and those are the ones dated 10/20. Those FAQs have eliminated FAQ number 207. It now says no longer relevant. The result is that talent representatives should include all sources of earned revenue. That would include the commission income, it would include retainers paid, but it would also include any payments passed through to the artists that you represent. So this is an update to what SVOG will consider earned revenue for purposes of determining the award amount. This is another reason to include a monthly P&L profit and loss statement if you have one available and you can. And you know, the reason is a federal income tax return provides important information, but it often doesn't provide the level of detail that a profit and loss or other income statements provides. So the more you can provide to help us understand all your sources of earned revenue, all revenue streams, it will help us understand and properly calculate your award amount.
Thank you, Steve. And our hope is that this has provided you guys with the information that you need to address this in Recon 2.0. If you have follow-up questions on this issue, you are welcome to post those in the Q&A, and Tara will be collecting them so that at the end of the presentation, we can use some of that time to revisit this issue as needed. Now that we have gone over the information we need you to provide and the things that you should be thinking about as you are collecting your information and completing the action item, Christian is going to walk you through the actual process of how to complete that action item in the portal and in the award system.
Thanks, Jenny, and thank you everybody for joining in. So now we'll get to the real meat and potatoes of how do you actually take advantage of Reconsideration 2.0. So as was discussed previously, Reconsideration 2.0 is available to everybody. However, you will receive an invitation to opt in only after your funding request has finished processing through the existing phases. So you've been considered for appeal or reconsideration or supplemental, and that decision has been made and rendered, you will receive an invitation to opt in. You'll receive that invitation to opt in via email first. You'll notice that you'll get an email from noreply@salesforce.com on behalf of noresponse@sba.gov that has the subject line action required, your Shuttered Venue Operators Grant application. That's the pretty standard subject line that you'll see when you get an official notification from SBA, and these are the addresses that you can typically expect a response from or an update from of a notification that there's been a change. So for this specific email, you'll notice that it says you now have the opportunity to correct any potential errors on your initial SVOG application, which may have decreased your expected award amount. Completing this action item will allow you to review and revise the information you have provided to SBA. Revisions may result in a change to your initial award amount and, by extension, any potential supplemental award amount. To confirm you want the SBA to review and reconsider your award amount, complete the action item in the SVOG portal by a certain date. That date will be 21 days from the time you receive this invitation, so that should give you the time you need to prepare your documents and submit the application opt-in. So you can get to your opt-in via the portal. You can either click into this link in the email, or if you don't feel comfortable clicking into links via an email, you can type that into your web browser and you will go to the same place. You want to go to svograntportal.sba.gov. If you have any questions, you can email svogrant@sba.gov. So assuming you either went to the website in your portal or clicked the link, you'll get brought to the SVOG portal login page where you can log in, and you'll see in the top right corner where you can press the login button. Now, you should all be familiar with this, but some of you may not have had to enter your application in some time, so we're just going to go through the basics. You put the email address that you have on file with SBA. That includes if you accidentally created your account with some sort of typo in the email, etc. You're going to want to make sure you use that username and enter the password. If you do not remember the password, please make use of that forgot password button at the bottom. Otherwise, you may be logged out. Once you have put in the correct email and password, you will be brought to this page where you can enter the secondary verification code. This will be present in an authenticator type app that you downloaded during the initial phase of the application, where you will tap, it will give you a several digit code. You type this in and click next. If you had any issues with this, you haven't logged in a while, there's been some sort of change to who created the account for you, or somebody that worked in your organization that's no longer with you, you don't remember the password, your email is incorrect, you need to make some sort of other update to your contact details, you can do so from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Eastern time, 7 days a week, by calling the tech support number, and that number is 1-800-659-2955. And for text-enabled phones, that is 1-800-877-8339. Just follow the prompts either way to reach SVOG specific assistance. So assuming you get in successfully, you will be brought to this page. It will look relatively similar, only the top banner will change. You'll notice that you now have the option to select My Applications at the top, as well as selecting FAQs and supplemental documents. As was mentioned previously, we've updated these documents in the past month, so you'll want to make sure that if you haven't checked over these recently, before you submit your opt-in, give a quick read over of the FAQs that have been updated October 20th, as well as the post-application guidance for current SVOG grantees and applicants that was also updated October 20th. Once you're in the portal, you'll want to click My Applications. It'll show this screen. You'll select the name of your organization from under Funding Request Name. If you log in and you do not see your name here, make sure that you have logged in using your most recent provided contact information, as we know that some people have changed their email and then they log in and they don't see the organization. You're going to want to make sure you log in with the most recent contact information you've provided SBA. Once you've clicked on the name of your organization, you will be brought to this page. We'll have a summary of all the information SVOG currently has on file for your organization. As you would scroll down the page, you could see information you previously submitted, such as answers to questions, documents you've uploaded, revenue information you've previously provided. For the purposes of opting in, you're going to want to click into this action items. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the action item. You click on either the AI number, or you can click View All. Clicking View All will show, just in a broader view, all the information that is on pertaining to your funding requests action item. You'll see that to opt in, the Reconsideration 2.0 opt-in is named Apply for Reconsideration of your SVOG award amount, and the status will be new when you receive it, or if you let the due date pass without taking any action, it'll come expired. Please do everything you can to not allow that go to expired, as there are very few circumstances in which we will be able to unexpire or issue this action item again. So once you've completed this successfully, whether you opt in or out, you will see that status under the status tab where it shows new in this graphic. And again, be mindful of that due date. Once you've clicked into the action item, this is the screen you'll see. The text should be very familiar at this point. It is what is in the email. You now have the opportunity to correct any potential errors on your initial SVOG application, which may have decreased your expected award amount. Completing this action item will allow you to review and revise the information you provided to SBA. Revisions may result in a change to your initial award amount and, by extension, any potential supplemental award amount. Because this process is taking place after supplemental, meaning your application has been evaluated for supplemental eligibility based on the financial information we already had on file for you, if you choose to opt in to Reconsideration 2.0, if there are any changes that we would have made to your initial or supplemental award amounts, we will make them in the Reconsideration 2.0 award amount. So you are presented with two options. to either opt in or opt out. If you choose to opt out, you will have to do several steps to confirm that you truly intend to opt out. First, when you click it, it will bring up this red bar that says, "Are you sure you want to opt out?" Then you would select this box below that says, "I choose to decline." The system will confirm you are electing to decline, and then you will now press submit. And you'll notice that it says submit because that will be the last step you take. Please, if you do not wish to take part in Reconsideration 2.0, instead of letting your application, your action item expire, please do opt out, as that will allow us to know that you intentionally chose to opt out. Assuming you would like to opt in, you will press opt in. You will see that now once you select opt in, it shows you that there are 3 extra pages after this one. So once you click next, you'll go to earned revenues. After you submit the earned revenues page, it'll take you to supporting documentation and then an attestation page. So what will you be asked? On that second page, as you can see on the right side, you'll be asked to provide some information that has to do with your earned revenues. At the top of the page, you will be asked, as Tara discussed, to confirm the date business began operations that SB has on file is accurate, especially in light of the information we provided during this presentation. It will remind you of what the definition of earned revenue is, give you the citations to the FAQ if you'd like more information, as well as provide an example, such that if I incorporated my business on November 10th of 2018, but my new business didn't begin generating earned revenue until April 10th of 2019, my date business began operations for SOG purposes should be April 10th, 2019. So if I previously provided a different date, such as January 1st, 2019, I would make that change here. As you then scroll down on this same page, you'll see that there is earned revenue information to fill out. This will pre-fill with the information you have provided previously, both in your application and as well as any update action items you may have taken advantage of. So you'll be asked to confirm that below accurately reflects the monthly breakdowns for both 2019, 2020, and 2021 of your earned revenue. And again, we give you the definition of what earned revenue is. And we remind you that we will be verifying these figures against your tax returns, your justification statement, and any other financial supporting documents you provide. So please provide your total earned revenue for each month. If there's a period with no revenues or negative, you'll want to put a 0 there. If you were not in an operation for certain months in 2021, you could put 0s there or leave them blank. The preference is for 0s, so we know that you were able to successfully put in the information that pertains to your organization. At the bottom, you'll see the totals for each year, and you will confirm that the information is true and correct. Once you click next on that page, you're now on the third page, supporting documentation. You'll see that there is a lot of information on this page. It's zoomed out just so you can see everything on the slideshow, but you'll be asked to provide documentation in response to the 6 prompts. There's 6 on this page, and at the top we explain what types of information you can provide. So we ask you to please ensure you have comprehensive documentation that responds to each prompt ready, as you'll only have one opportunity to upload documents. So you're free to open up this action item as many times as you would like to read through the types of prompts you'll be asked, but please make sure that you only start uploading, click submit once you have everything together. So you'll want to make sure that you have the documents all aligned, named properly, that they have the right file types, etc. Our award system will only accept files that end in the common file types, such as PDFs, JPEGs, docs, Excel files, etc. Each individual file, so for example, a Word document I want to upload could only be 35 megabytes. However, there's no limit on how many files I can upload. So I can press the upload button at the bottom, and there's a reminder up at the top as well as at the bottom that you can upload up to 10 files each time you press the upload button. So if I want to upload 20 or 50, I would just have to press upload, select my 10 files, press complete, then press upload again. We're just going to put again this reminder, please do not send us compressed, zip, or password protected files, as they will not be accepted, as well as links to drives or online storage accounts such as Dropbox, cloud accounts. We will not be able to accept those. Everything has to be submitted directly to SVOG. You'll be asked the questions that we discussed earlier in the slideshow about please provide tax documentation, confirming that if there's some sort of affiliate relationship, that you provide information on those parent or subsidiaries or affiliated organizations that shows the relationships, be it both in diagrams and pictures, as well as documentations and in written words, as well as you'll want to provide externally or internally prepared and signed financial statements that show the revenue items. If there's any difference between what those statements say and your taxes, especially in light of the conversation about the revenue that goes to clients, you'll want to just explain that difference in your written statement that you upload at the end. You'll also provide any documents to verify the accuracy of the financial information you've provided on the previous page, any audits that may have happened, tax return transcripts that you can get from the IRS website, etc. And if you were to continue to scroll down, you'd see additional questions such as if there's been some sort of business transaction, if you brought in partners or partners have departed from your organization since December of 2018 during the lifetime of this application, or since you've had your award issued, you'll just want to provide us information on that. And then 6, that detailed statement that explains any discrepancies between what was initially provided, just explains the information you've now provided and provides context. Here's that upload button we discussed, as well as the requirement that you press confirm. All these pages require you to confirm. That way you do not press next without intending to. Here's just a demonstration of what it looks like when you go to upload documents. In this example, I've already uploaded 10. I would just press upload again, and it will let me select the next 10 and so on. I press open or complete, and it will let me upload as many documents as I'd like to, if I'd like to upload more than 10 files. After that, it's just a simple attestation, reconfirming that I have a SAM.gov registration, that it's up to date, especially for some of you talent reps. Make sure that the information you have on SAM.gov matches up. Make sure that EINs match, the names, addresses, bank accounts, everything that you have on file with SBA and SVOG matches up with what you have on SAM. If you're unsure, you can always check your SAM.gov account. If you find that there's any discrepancies, you can make that correction in SAM if that's where the error is, or you can just let SBA know by contacting us at that SBA email address that it's the SVO grant at sba.gov. Once you've completed the action item, it will let you return to the portal and you are done. You have opted in successfully. So just to summarize, SBA will send that Reconsideration 2 invitation via the SVOG portal. That's where the action item will live. You'll receive a notification via email as well. You'll have 21 days to respond once you receive that invitation. That invitation will be sent out only when your application has finished processing through its existing phases. Please take your time preparing your response. You will have the full 21 days to respond. So please don't feel obligated to submit as soon as you get that invitation. Take the time to read over, make sure that all 6 of those questions and prompts on that page, you have documents that are responsive to, and that you address them in your justification statement if you're choosing to opt in. When you submit that information, don't send us links, don't send password protected documents, and don't hit submit until you're really, truly ready to submit. You are always welcome to open the action item, proceed through without clicking the final submit button. That way you can see what you're going to be asked, but come back to it, as it may not always save any information you provide. Now I'm going to turn it over to Jenny to provide some more information on the information and support resources we have available for you. Jenny?
Thank you, Christian, for walking us through the portal. Before we dive into Q&A, we're just going to go over a couple more logistical components and some support information resources. The first you should be aware of is that on November 17, we will begin to send out invitations. This will be done on a rolling basis. So if you don't receive yours on November 17, please just continue to keep an eye on your inbox for that action item email to come to you. And also be aware that, as we talked about earlier, if you have not completed all of the stages of the award process, all the way up through a final answer on supplemental, you won't be receiving that invitation. So just be mindful, if you have not received your invitation within about a week of November 17th and you have completed all of those phases, you're welcome to reach out to us. The same timeline guidance on once you've received your final answer on the final stage supplemental, you're welcome to reach out to us sooner than that, and we will be trying to get it to you as quickly as possible so you can continue moving forward in the process. But just be aware, it is a rolling basis, so you may not get it right on that exact first day. Once you have received it, you're going to go through the process that Christian just demonstrated for you, and you will have 21 days to complete the action item. So again, we're providing some extra time there because it's the end of the year, we have the holidays, and we are asking you guys to provide very comprehensive and detailed information and sets of documents. So we're giving you guys that extra time. It is not first come, first serve. It is okay if you take your entire 21 days to respond. Just as Christian went over with you right there at the end, be very, very careful that when you're responding, you're giving us everything you intend to give us and that you are ready to hit submit. Because once you hit submit, that is the final answer. That is what we'll be looking at to make our decision about Recon 2.0 for you. Once that's been completed, you will be shifted into monitoring, auditing, and closeout. And as discussed a little bit earlier, our target timeline for that is December 7, 14, first half of December time. We will be having additional office hours to go over processes and information and any of your questions related to that stage of the process. Next slide, please. If you need information or customer support, here again is how to contact us and where to find that information. Many of these links are already posted in our Q&A section of the live event today. If you want to go in there and copy paste any of these links to save for yourself to go visit, we have our regular SVOG website, a link to get back to the portal, a direct link to our post-application guidance, and our email address. Again, if you would like to reach out to high-level customer service specific to SVOG, is svogrant@sva.gov. We also have our links to our resource partners and district offices in the Q&A if you would like to reach out to them directly as well. Next slide. So having gone over all of that information, we now have a few minutes left to address some Q&As that have come in. Lori or Tara, do you have any?
Sure. Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. It does seem like there is still a bit of confusion and some questions around pass-through funds. Some individuals are seeking some guidance on whether or not they can still apply for Recon 2.0 if they do not have pass-through income. They also would like to know a little bit more about what we mean about pass-through income, and can they claim pass-through income for artists if the artists are out of the US. But it does seem like there's just some general confusion about how pass-through income is defined and how that relates to Recon 2.0.
All right. Steve, can you revisit that again from the frame Lori just set for us, and maybe we can give them some clearer answers?
Certainly. You know, that first question, if you don't use pass-through income, can you still take part in Recon 2.0? Absolutely. As Jenny had highlighted, Recon 2.0 is for anyone who believes that the amount they receive may have been calculated too low, regardless of the reason. So it's certainly not limited to the pass-through income. But in terms of pass-through, what we're generally talking about is talent representatives that have a business model whereby they collect money that will eventually then be paid to the artists they represent. And, you know, without getting into too much detail, because, you know, each business model may be slightly different and we don't want to, you know, talk about any individual application, but in general terms, the point is that if you have income that you receive as a talent representative on behalf of the artists you represent, which is then passed on to those artists, make sure you explain that to us in your explanatory statement. if you then include it in your earned revenue, I should say, make sure you explain it in your explanatory statement. Make sure you can provide us some documentary evidence. If it's shown in your federal income tax return in your explanatory statement, tell us that and tell us where it's shown. If it is not there, but it's in your P&L, or if it's both in the tax return and the P&L, again, point us to that. Show us where that revenue stream is located in your financial documents. So again, the definition of pass-through, as we're talking about it, is money that is received by the talent rep on behalf of the artists that they represent, that they then pass on to those artists. And the key is, as I said, make sure that you point us to where in the financial documents we can see that is in fact earned revenue.
Thank you so much. So we have a question where some individuals have not heard back yet on their supplemental award, and they're wondering if they would be eligible for Recon 2.0.
So as we talked about at the top, everybody who receives an award is eligible for Reconsideration 2.0. However, you will not receive your invitation for Reconsideration 2.0 until after that supplemental award stage has been finalized. So once you have received your final decision or disbursement on supplemental, then you would want to start keeping an eye on your email inbox for that invitation to Recon 2.0.
Great. If Recon 2.0 updates the amount of my initial award, will it also update my supplemental as well?
Yes. So our supplemental is a percentage of your initial award. So if your initial award goes up, your supplemental will also go up.
If I make a mistake on my Recon 2.0 documents, can I resubmit them as long as it's before the deadline?
Once you hit submit on your Recon 2.0 action item, it cannot be reopened. That again is why we have asked you guys to take your time and be careful and use up to that entire 21 days if you need it to prepare and submit your information. As Christian went over towards the end of his presentation, when you get to that last button, make sure you're really, really ready to push it, because once that button's pushed and the information is given to us, that's the final answer, and that's the information that we'll be using to evaluate the request for reconsideration.
Great. I incorrectly entered my 2021 revenues. Can I fix this in my Recon 2.0 information, and how?
Yes. So if you received a revenue update action item and you put the wrong information in there, or there's some sort of update you'd like to make as part of the Reconsideration 2.0 action item, you are able to change those numbers. I will show on the screen again. You will be asked to provide updated or just confirmation of the numbers for each month of each year. The system will automatically show you what we currently have on file for each month and each year. If there's a change you'd like to make, you are able to make it on this page within the action item. Once you click submit, we will have that information.
Great. What if I miss the 21-day due date? Will there be another reconsideration extension?
There will not. So if you miss it without some sort of previously discussed or communicated documented hardship, it will not be opened.
Okay. Should earned revenue for 2019 and 2020 still be calculated using the accrual method?
It should use the accounting method that you actually use for your business. And Steve Steele, could you provide some more information on that?
Yes, certainly, Christian. The bottom line is we want you to provide information as you provide it. There is an FAQ number 141 that talks about, that we recommend that you use the same accounting method that you use for your federal tax return. But again, that's a recommendation. If your P&L is in, say, accrual and you file on a cash basis or vice versa, Again, make sure you explain that to us and you know, in your explanatory statement, explain why that would cause a discrepancy. It's one of the things that clearly could cause a discrepancy between how you report revenues on your federal income tax return and how you report it on your profit and loss or income statement. So that's just one more thing that, you know, you don't have to do you know, special accounting just for the purposes of Recon 2.0. Just submit to us the documentation that you have and explain to us why there may be some discrepancy.
Thank you so much. It looks like we are at 2 p.m. I wanted to, thank all of the presenters and for everyone here who is attending the webinar. For your awareness, please go to sba.gov/SVO grant for any updates to the program. And if you have specific questions related to your application, please email us at svogrant@sba.gov. Thank you so much and have a wonderful day.